I am Vero, and this is Modern Immigrant. Welcome, everybody, to a new season of Modern Immigrant. I really miss you all so much. Today, I'm excited to bring you a new episode in English, and we're going to be talking with Warda. Warda is a Somali-American writer, and she's going to be sharing her experience as a refugee in the US, as a college student, as a writer. We're going to talk about her amazing book, and you're going to find the links to obtain the book and check out Warda's work down below in the description of this episode. Warda inspired me so much, and I know she's going to do the same with you when you listen to her amazing and powerful story and journey. We talk about the struggles that she faces as a refugee. We talk about the different barriers, the difficulty of learning a new language and arriving to a country where you don't know the language, her journey of starting education when she was 11 years old and making it to writing a book in English, to graduating from college. And she's going to talk about all the amazing stuff that she wants to pursue as she moves forward in her journey. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening. Remember that subscribing is so important. So take a little moment and subscribe. It doesn't matter where you're listening. We're in audio platforms, and we're also here on YouTube. So thank you so much for joining us in another season. I cannot wait to share with you all of the amazing stories that I have prepared for you. Gracias. So excited to be here one more time for a new episode of Modern Immigrant. In this conversation, I already know it's going to be pretty special. So I want to welcome Warda to Modern Immigrant. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
And I know we're going to be touching about a few different topics when we talk, and I probably already shared it in our intro, but I have like a very kind of common question that I ask here in Modern Immigrant, and that help us kind of understand where your journey started. So would you like to share when did your immigration journey start, Warda? And I know it's not an easy question.
No, it's okay. So my immigration started with my father and my mom. So they immigrated from Ethiopia to Saudi Arabia, both of them. And then they, both of them were just going on their separate way, and Saudi Arabia is where they met each other. They got married, and they were both undocumented. And because of that, my father got deported twice back to Ethiopia. And because of that, during that time, my mom was pregnant with me. And so, it was a hard time for her. She was pregnant, and, women don't work in Saudi Arabia. So it was hard for her to, provide for me and herself. And my father got deported twice. And at that point, they just decided to, my mom and I should be, going back home in Ethiopia, so that in case my father gets deported again, we can all be together there. Yep. And then, my mom left in a hurry when she was leaving Saudi Arabia. So she left all my, documents, and even though undocumented, I had a birth certificate and everything like that. So she left in a hurry and suddenly forgot them.
Right. Because she was fleeing. It was
absolutely
an emergency. Yeah.
Right. So because of that, I got sick. While we were in Ethiopia, and every hospital she takes me to would refuse because I have no papers to show. And I was just getting sicker and sicker by the day. And then one of my uncle was staying with her at the moment, going to school. And without, my dad wouldn't let her come back to Saudi Arabia in any circumstances, because he never know if tomorrow is the day that he will be deported again. So she didn't tell my father and my uncle, Umar, and my mother decided to go back to Saudi Arabia so I can get medical attention. And then we took a boat, and basically the boat was overloaded with people. It was just too many people on the boat. And because of that, in the middle of the Red Sea, the boat collapsed. And yeah, that's how I lost my mother. And so many other people have also lost their lives. I was one of the lucky people who survived. And after that incident, my uncle calls my father in Saudi Arabia and, tells him, hey, this is what happened. What should I do with your daughter? Should I just take her back, or should I, continue our journey to Saudi Arabia? And he said, no, just take her back to Ethiopia and take her to our parents. So yeah. Yeah,
Yes. I just want to say, like, thank you for sharing. When I read that part in your book, the way you wrote it was so beautiful. But at the same time, I could feel the pain of, I think you mentioned something around, even though you were just 1 year old and you don't remember, it's something that you remember every single day too. And you have like those memories.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it took me forever to write that chapter. It was just, too sad and heartbreaking to write it. So I would write, a few sentences and I couldn't continue. So I would just stop there and, try the next day. It's hard.
How is, I know we're like gonna jump a little bit forward to the book just because we're kind of talking about how hard it was for you to write some of the chapters. How was the experience of writing in terms of, did you find it healing in a way? Do you find that triggering? Just because I know a lot of the listeners are, immigrants, a lot of them are not, but I know a lot of people are interested in writing and use writing as a healing process. So I wonder, how was that for you?
I would say absolutely it was a healing process for me, because before I started writing, it was really hard for me to even talk about it. Every time someone brings up the incident of my mother, I would literally just cry. But now that, I wrote about it and I talk about it with my loved ones and family and friends, it's like a story that, everybody should hear it. And, with every incident, there is always healing, and you can get over it, even though it's hard, and, try to be brave.
That's like the message that I'm getting. And I love that you're talking about that, because I will love for you to speak on. So you pretty much having experienced immigration since you were born, like even
Absolutely.
Before, right? Because your parents were struggling with the immigration process and later on it was you.
Yes.
Can you share with us, and I know this is a super broad question, so I'm trying to like pack everything in this time, and I know some things are going to be left outside, but what are some of those experiences that you went through as a refugee, both here in America and also before, because you were, emigrating somewhere else as well? What are some of those experiences that you would like to share in this space, similar as your book? Everyone should read it. What are some things you would like to share here that we need to know about being a refugee?
So many.
Right.
In terms of challenges and struggles, I would say everywhere you go, people speak different language. Like, for example, I grew up in Ethiopia. They speak so many different languages. And then I went to South Africa and they speak like more than 11 languages. And then I come to the United States and,
another,
yes. So the language barrier, especially when you come to the United States where English is the main language, you face a lot of struggles. Like if you get papers in the mail, you cannot read if you have no experience or any educational background. I remember while I was in high school, some people would come to me and ask me to read, but when you get a letter from the government, they just use this big terms, and I myself don't know.
Right,
And
right.
I would Google it and try to be helpful, but still, it's I'm just a high school student, and it's hard. And even when you really understand when you understand the concept of this letter, sometimes it's hard to translate it into Somali, because I never heard of it.
Exactly.
There is also the struggles that most immigrants face is financial difficulties. They come here with nothing, you know, and starting from scratch. It's really devastating. I remember when we came to the United States, my dad, we were 10 in my
Yeah.
family, and imagine the rate that you can work was, you used to work for $8. Imagine
Wow.
2013. Yeah.
And you were 17, correct?
Yes.
When you came. Okay.
Yes.
And I remember you talked about, now that you're mentioning the financial struggles as
Mhm.
one of the things or one of the experiences that many people maybe are not aware of.
Mhm.
I learned with your book that that period, I think you call it the limbo, that
Mhm.
period when you're already coming to the US as a refugee,
Yeah.
and like how much your dad had to spend money in the meantime, right? Like
Mhm.
just buying food, because there was not even enough food until you were placed in this kind of
Mhm.
home apartment. So it's all of those, and then there's the paperwork and the applications. Like I feel like immigrants have to pay so much on top of their regular payments.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember like when we were just getting ready to come to the United States. So my dad used to sell cars. He would, buy used car, fix up, and then sell it. And when we were leaving, he sold all of his car. He had enough money, but then we had to stay about 30 days, if not more, in another city. Like we left our house, everything. Like we just had suitcases, with few clothes. And I remember the UN was like, "Oh, there's a shutdown, and until further notice, you guys should wait here." And I remember we used to buy food from the hotels, and it was just so expensive. And within that 30 days, like he lost everything. So when we come to the United States, he had no saving, he had no money, and it was just devastating to see my dad in so much stress.
Right, right. I can't even
Mm.
imagine. That's a
Yeah.
lot on top of all the stress that you were subject to prior to
Mhm.
coming, right? Just like
Yeah.
that preparation. Um, and so those, in terms of big struggles, I also feel like it will be important for us to touch on the inequalities, because I
Mhm.
feel like this country, in a way, and we want to hear it from you, it's like receiving refugees, or
Mhm.
having this form of migration as, you're welcome in this country under these terms. But then are you
Mhm.
really treated fairly? Like, it's like they give you the opportunity, and then what do,
Yeah.
right?
Honestly, it's so hard for an immigrant. Let's say when you come to the United States, it's like, okay, it's like you are basically blind human, and it's just so hard, because when wherever you came from, there's a different culture, there's a different language, there's
Yeah.
everything is different. So when you come here, it's like you living in another world,
Mhm.
and you have to get adapted to that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like you don't have choice. And I don't know if it's just me, but where I came from, in whether it's Ethiopia, South Africa, or Kenya, which I travel a lot through South Africa, people
Mhm.
are so welcoming. I'm not
Yeah.
saying most American people are not, but the thing is, there's that community connection back home, that if someone is struggling, everybody tend to help one way or another. But here, everybody's on their own. You meet a neighbor, and the only thing they say is like, "Hi, how are you?" That's it. Like nobody asks you, "Hey, are you new here? What can we do for you?" doesn't show you around, the city. You have no transportation when you come here. You have to learn how to drive. And most countries, even if you are a good driver and you have been driving for so long, the the rules and regulation of driving is different, and it's just so hard. I remember my dad always have been driving in his life, but when we came here, he had to study. He have to study to take the road yeah, the knowledge test for his permit. And it's so frustrating, and no one talks about that. The new environment, the weather, we never seen snow.
You talk about that when you arrived was in Michigan, right? And you were like, what is this? Tell us a little bit more about that process of adaptation to the weather, because I feel like that's a big part. And we don't talk about it as serious as it is.
Yeah, absolutely. So we arrived November 6 in the US. And around that time, the weather was just a little bit chilly, but a month later, the snow started. And we only saw it in the movie. Like my husband, oh my God, we've seen snow for the first time. And everybody's excited. And it was really snowing bad. We were told that it hasn't snowed this bad in 30 years that year. And and so we were, going to school. We started school, and the only clothes we had was the clothes we used to wear in Africa. It's so hot, imagine. And we didn't know anything. We didn't have the money to go buy jackets and all the gear for this cold weather. And I remember my first day of school, I didn't even have a jacket. I was just wearing this little sweater. And everybody's just looking at me like,
and you were probably freezing too, like.
Yes, absolutely. And it was so slippery. We didn't have transportation, so all my sibling and I, and even my dad, everybody was taking the bus as a transportation. And I remember, honestly, the first day of school, I got lost.
Wow, I bet.
Yeah, and I remember, I'm talking about this because my dad was waiting. I usually used to get out of school around 2:40, be home by like 3:15 at home. But, I didn't know where my stop was.
Oh, no. And you didn't have a cell phone?
No, I didn't have cell phone. Right. We didn't have the financial means to buy cell phones or, anything like that. And, the first day my dad took me, and he actually told me, we got off from this side, but you should, take the bus when you're coming home across the street. But everything was new to me. I was just too tired. Right. I just took it from the same place that my dad, we got off the bus in the morning, and I was just circling around Grand Rapids like 5 times.
That's so scary and overwhelming. Yes.
Yeah. And then my dad, he was waiting for me because he knew I didn't know the city well, and he was literally standing on the bus stop since 3 p.m. And guess what? I got off the bus, I think after 6 times, just circling around 8 p.m. And it was snowing, and he had no jacket. He was just wearing normal shoes.
Just waiting for you.
Just waiting for me. And when I got off the bus, he just started crying. And hugged me so tight, and like, thank God you're alive and you are back. And oh my God, it was so stressful. And I remember one of my siblings also got lost the next week. She was young, but she decided to go with her friend after school. Her friend was like, hey, let's just go. I'll show you my house. It's just around the corner. And she's like, okay, let's go. We're going to get back. I'll get back to my house as soon as possible. And then the friend just, once she arrived to her street, was like, bye, I'm going to my house now. and she didn't know where to go. And so like the
Wow.
school, all the teachers was looking for her, and it was terrifying. And my dad's like, why did I come here? I have no community support. I have like, nothing. I don't understand this place. It's just too cold. And it was terrifying.
Yes.
And yeah.
And also lacking the community that you were talking about, that and that welcoming kind of, I don't know, I feel like just
Mhm.
arriving to a place like the US can be very rough, because in other countries, maybe that circumstance or that situation would have looked very different. Maybe someone would have helped you, approach you, ask you, right? But like, I feel like here, at least my
Yeah.
experience too, has been seeing people very like to themselves, right? So someone can be next
Yeah.
to you in the bus crying and you're not going to ask them how they are. And in other countries, it's more open and more,
Right.
I don't
And
know.
speaking of that, after I graduated from high school, we moved to Minnesota. And I mean, like, there's a big Somali community, West African, East African people we could relate to. And even so, I started attending St. Catherine University in St. Paul in
Okay.
Minnesota. And I remember my first day, I I attended all my classes, and I had, late evening classes. And then after that, I realized I didn't have a charger and my phone was dead. And it was my first day, and my dad was in Uber. So he didn't, pick up I had like 1%, and I kept calling him and he wouldn't answer because, he was an Uber driver.
Right.
And my phone died. And I don't know like what bus to take, or
Oh,
where to go to.
right.
And I already, the bus stop and the school is a bit far from each other, so I already left the school. I can't go back. It's getting dark. I think it was just dark, and I'm just wandering around trying to figure
Oh.
out. I'm like, hey, I live in North Minneapolis, what bus can I take? And everybody's like, I really don't know. I am. Yeah.
See, like,
Yeah. And everybody, I just felt like I was like an alien, to be honest, because everybody I try to talk to just looks at me in a strange way and just walks away. And I would never forget this day. I kept asking people if I could use their phone. I remember. And everybody's like, oh my, I don't know. It was like when the election was also going on,
the two
2016.
yeah,
Yeah,
2016. Yeah, that
2016.
was terrible.
It was terrible. And everybody's like just looking at me in a strange way because I'm wearing my hijab. I'm just, uh, dressed up, and everybody's just looking at me, and I'm like, what is going on? Why is people so mean? I'm just
Yeah.
trying to figure it out. And then all of a sudden I was like, okay, well, I see this older couple, and in my community, elderly, like, I was like, they will respect me and hopefully will let me use the phone so I can, get in touch with my dad. It was the worst decision I made. So so
No.
what happened was I was like, hello, I go to St. Kate's and my phone died. I'm new to Minnesota and I'm just trying to call my dad. Can I please borrow your phone to call my dad? So the woman that I had a phone, at least that's what she said. Her husband was with her. And I'm talking about like this couple was like really old. I would
Okay.
say probably like 70. They just
And they
taking a walk.
weren't, you don't think they were part of your community? They weren't like Somalis, or were
Oh,
they?
no, they were
Okay.
white. Both of them
Okay.
were white. And he looks at me and he's like, I want you to get away from me. I will never let a Muslim woman use my phone. Go back to your shithole country. And I just started crying. I was already emotional
Oh,
and I
water.
couldn't believe it. Oh my God, it was so embarrassing. And he's yelling at me. Like he's yelling, everybody hears him in the street. And then I just started crying. I just walked away. And then he kept walking after me. And I'm just, trying to get away from him. He's like, I will never let anybody use my phone. Let alone talk to me. You have no right. And it's just yelling and yelling. And I'm just shook. I didn't know even what to say. And the woman's, apology was, I am so sorry, ma'am. He just got a new phone and he doesn't want anybody to touch it.
Oh,
No.
come on. Like for
Yes,
real.
right. And then someone across the street heard him and walked to him and it's like, you need to leave this young lady alone if you're not gonna let her use your phone. She have not done anything to you. And it's like, no, all these people, all these immigrants came here illegally. And I'm like, sir, I did not come here illegally. I have the right that you have. And I'm sorry if I offended you for asking you, to use your phone. And it's like, no, don't you ever ask me or ask anyone to use your phone. What if you run away with my phone? And
Oh, come on.
I was, oh my God, it was so embarrassing. I couldn't even talk, but those were the things that was going through my mind. And luckily, someone directed me, and yeah, it was terrible. I got home and I was crying, and my dad was like, what happened? And I told him, and he was, pissed, but there's nothing we can do as an immigrant. We just felt unwelcome, and yeah.
That's super hard. Yeah. And while you were sharing this, I was thinking of, hearing those really difficult stories. And I know there's other ones when you have felt, as you're saying, welcome, I don't belong here, a lot of things that immigrants can connect with. What do you think has helped you? Like, I know there's not a point where we're like, okay, now I'm fine. I adapted, but what do you think have been helpful to you along the way to survive and to overcome those issues?
I would say just asking like endless questions and asking for help and not giving up, because not everyone is the same. You will meet along the way like very rude people, and you will find kind people who are ready to mentor you and help you throughout the way. It's just a matter of you not giving up and trying to ask for help when you can do things yourself.
Yes.
And never to feel ashamed, because everything is just a learning process.
Right. And as you told that guy, you have the rights to be here. We all do, as for being humans.
Absolutely.
Beyond the paperwork, beyond the documentation, we don't need to feel ashamed. I think that's a big thing for immigrants, that we need to believe that first. Right? Because we expect people to accept us. We expect people to make us feel like we belong, but we don't. We keep feeling like apologetic about being here. And you have to get rid of that and be like, hey, I'm here. I deserve this. And therefore, as you're saying, I'm going to ask for help. I'm going to ask for the resources I need because I deserve that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Tell us about your book. So, I have the title, My Journey from the Horn of Africa to a College Education. So first, I have like a couple of questions. But first, what motivated you to write the book? And second, what did you go to college for? Because I know you were writing it while you were going to college.
So what motivated me was my sibling. I used to work at the daycare back in 2018 and 2017, and every time we are reading a book, and it was dominantly East African and like immigrant kids that I was teaching. And every time they would ask me, why can't we find anybody with like our name or somebody that looks like us? And it just encouraged me to continue writing. And my sibling loved hearing my story, and they kept telling me, hey, please just tell us a little bit every night. And it was just so inspiring to them. But what mostly encouraged me was my high school teachers, counselors, principal, and my mentor. I remember applying to Dell Scholarship and the Gates Millennium. And I wrote the Gates itself had 9 different essays with 9 different questions to answer.
Can you tell us what that is? so people can learn what the gates or what those opportunities are for listeners?
So yes, those opportunities are they are scholarship
Great.
opportunities where you can apply and get money for college or university to pay for your schooling. And I didn't get accepted to get selected to the gates. I got the second round, but I lost in the finals. Yeah, it's okay. I got a full ride at the end of the day, but I tried.
And that's the thing. It's like trying accessing those, as you were saying, like those services, those, that help.
Mhm. There is always opportunities and resources out there. It's not good to be, closed-minded. Rather be, open-minded and try to figure out yourself. And if you can't, go and, ask for help. Especially when you're in high school, there's, counselors and your teachers are able to help you. As the first generation, it's, when we're writing essays or trying to tell a story, it's hard to put the idea across. So it's good for your teachers, ask them, they will help you, ask them to edit it for you, ask them to read it over, ask them, like
For
what about
feedback, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I with my education journey, my high school teachers have helped me so much, within the scholarships that I was applying for. I remember I gave a copy of all my scholarship question essays after I wrote it. I remember giving each teacher a copy, and everyone like they didn't know each other. Like, I didn't say, oh, this teacher is also reading, but every time, they see me, they're like, you know what? I read your essay and I think you should write a book.
Right.
Yes. And I was close with my high school principal. I was, involved in so many activities. I was the school council student had council for the school, and we worked together a lot. I used to work with the superintendents of Michigan. It was amazing experience. So because of that, we were very close, and I told him to read my essays for me, to give me feedbacks, and edit it for me, and he was amazed. And so every time, he sees me in the hallway, he's like, hey, did you start your book? Did you start a book? Did you start writing your story? And I'm like, no, I'm just so busy with school right now. And by the way, like, I finished high school within 2 years. I took 9 and 10 and then 11 and 12. So I was so busy, but it's good to get out of your comfort zone. And by the way, I'm very shy. I don't like talking in front of people. I have anxiety within that. But I knew what I wanted to accomplish. I knew I wanted to get further with my education. So asking for help, and it's a good thing. And being part of a lot of school activities or clubs or anything like that, like, don't take the opportunities around you for granted. And so because I was very involved in the school, like, everybody get to notice me, and because of that, everybody was so eager to help me throughout my high school journey. And every teacher that I gave my essays to give me feedback would absolutely say, hey, like, I still have those essays, and they would be like, you have to write a book. Your story is so unique that the world needs to hear it. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it was amazing. So
I'm so glad that you were able to find that supportive system that told you, hey, you can do this. Because sometimes it's hard to believe it, right? It's hard to say, really, me? And just the fact that you're sharing that you arrived in the US when you were 17 years old, didn't know the language, or like, I don't know what was your level of.
I would say, okay.
Like, how much did you know? Because then writing a whole book, it's huge.
Absolutely. So I actually started my education journey when I was 11. I have never been to school before that. And I remember my first day of school, I was, taken to sixth grade because of my age. And they assumed that, I at least knew somewhat English. But I didn't even know when they asked me, hey, what's your name? Like, what's your last name? I didn't know anything. But luckily there was Somali students and they were able to translate it. But after the next day, the second day, I was taken back to the second grade. Yeah.
Right.
And honestly, because I was longing for education and I had hopes and goals and dreams to accomplish, even so, being with little kids as a classmate didn't bother me. But what mainly bothered me was some parents would come into the class when the teacher is talking outside with another parent, and they would, I had a picture, I don't know if you have seen it in the book, at the back of the class, because I was so tall from from my class. Yeah. And whenever they see me, they just like, hey, are you the teacher assistant? And when the student says no, they're like, wait, what are you doing here?
Right.
What are you doing here? And I remember this particular incident where one of the parents said, she knew my parents very well. And she basically go off and said, you shouldn't be here. You should be married or helping your mom with the chores. What are you doing here, wasting your time? And every time that hurt me so deeply. And I didn't even bother to tell my parents because I was like, well, I was afraid they're going to take her advice. So it was terrifying. You find people like that discouraging you, but if you have a goal and dreams, it's always good to go after them and do your best.
100%. And that's what you did. And I think it's so beautiful that you were able to create something out of that and go throughout that whole journey of writing it and expressing yourself. And are the illustrations also yours?
No, someone, yes.
They're really beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I guess, again, I can continue to talk and explore a lot of these topics. But there has to be an end, sadly, of our conversation. But I want to ask you, in this upcoming World Refugee Day, which hopefully we're releasing near that day, or it is today, what's a message you would like to leave to listeners that are immigrants, that are non-immigrants or not refugees? What's something they can do to support the community? What's an action they can take? Or just a general message for them to know about these struggles?
The message I want to get across is that as an immigrant, we came here to better our future. And, our parents come here for us to get an education, to get a better life. But, we need that community that supports us. And, America is like, when we come to the US, it's like someone who is it's like someone trying to read an Arabic keyboard, like an American white man trying to read an Arabic keyboard. He has no idea what it's saying or what's on there. So that's like an example how America is to an immigrant. We have no idea. We don't know the culture. We don't know the language. Most of immigrants does not speak the language English. And, even so, with all that struggle, we try to go above and beyond to accomplish our goals and be successful. And so we just need that community to support us. When you see an immigrant, residing next to you as a neighbor, it's so, it would be nice for you to just greet them and, show them around and, hey, this is where you can buy food, this is where you can go. Just showing them around the city is even so important, because if you don't know where to go buy food, it's terrible. You just need that support.
It's those little things.
Yeah, that matter.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you're saying that, because as I feel like when people want to help the immigrant community, they get like overwhelmed because they feel like
Mhm.
nothing that they would do is going to be enough, right? Because immigration as a struggle, as an issue is so big that I can see people
Mhm.
just being like, "Oh, I have no idea how that is. I don't know how to help. It's too much." And it's
Absolutely.
not. It's like exactly what you're saying. It's a smile. It's
Mhm.
a, hey, do you need help? It's, hey,
Yeah,
here's my charger, here's my phone. Is, oh yeah, you can take the bus there. It's just
right.
the little things that will make you feel part of a community. Like you don't need to do big actions if you're not ready. Um,
Absolutely.
just
Mhm.
make people feel welcome.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
for the a message for the immigrants is just that I want them to know that anything is possible with all those struggles. You can be someone one day, and if you set your mind to be something, you can do it. To never give up on their dreams, regardless of what the situation is, and to it will get better. And I was once a farm girl and I didn't know how to read or write at the age of 11. So imagine, um, imagine me going through my journey and still being able to accomplish my goals and, getting into the best university and writing a book. And if I can do it, you can do it too. And I would say, look at your struggles as a lesson, you know, don't look it as a burden. Um, it will get better and to never regret it. But instead, your struggles will just make you stronger. And, I want young girls out there reading my book. I hope they know their values and dreams and to dream big. And the sky is the limit. You are all young and you can accomplish so much. And I hope that, they ignore all the obstacles and people trying to bring them down and anything, that life throws at them, and just be amazing and go accomplish your goals and yeah, be who you want to
Oh
be the
my God.
change. Mhm.
Be the change. That's
Yeah,
so beautiful. It really
thank
touches
you.
my heart the same way that it was touching my heart reading your book. As I said at the
Mhm.
beginning, I knew this was going to be a special conversation, and I'm honored that you were willing to come to Modern Immigrant to share part of your journey, to encourage people to read your book. I
Mhm.
probably already shared at the beginning where to get the book and the links, and people can find it also down below in the description of this episode and this video. I want to say again, thank you so much for participating in Modern Immigrant.
And thank you so much too for giving me the opportunity to share my story with you and the world. It
Oh,
means so much to me.
yeah, I appreciate it. And I realized that I forgot to ask you, where are you at right now in your college journey, and where are you
Mhm.
living currently?
Right now, I live in Minnesota,
Okay.
and my education journey is at the point where I'm just trying to finish my pre-med classes and planning to study for the MCAT. And my goal is to get into medical school within the coming
Awesome.
next year. So,
I love it. I love that. I can't wait to hear how that goes. I can't wait to keep learning from you.
mhm.
The other stuff that you write, I mean, a second book,
Yeah.
I'm already ready for the for
Yeah, I'm
it.
thinking of a children's book. Honestly,
Awesome.
yeah.
That would be amazing. I
I
can't
know.
wait to keep finding out and keeping up with your journey. And again, thank you so
Thank
much.
you too.
Thank you
It
everybody
was a
that
pleasure.
thank you everybody that listened and that watched this. I'll see you the following time. Bye.